Bookworms, it's just the Bookworm here. I'm so glad that you've decided to join me again today. I am going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I've seen so many people do this on YouTube, and I just decided that I wanted to join in on the fun. It seemed really fun to be answering these questions. Marley, my cat, has come and visited me. I'll have to see if she wants to be in the video. What do you think, Marmar? Hi. Hi, sweet pea. Hi, sweet pea. Sweet girl. Oh. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. Question number 1 is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2019? So it took me a couple of minutes to kind of decide between a few different books that I'd read. But then I came across one that I read. Let me see when I read this book. I have a list of all the books that I read. This one I actually read in April of 2019. So a couple of months ago, but as soon as I saw the name on the list, I was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, that was an amazing book. And that book was Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Penborough. And this was just stunning. It was amazing. All of the action and the twists and the turns and things that you just like really don't see coming. And that was like the best part of this book, is I did not see a lot of the different things coming. I didn't see a lot of the twists and turns coming before they actually were there. So it's about Louise, who's this kind of just average person. She's a mom, she works as a secretary, and she kind of has always taken life just, you know, calmly, easily, kind of just gone with the flow. But she does something kind of out of character one night at a bar, and she realizes that she's been drawn into this whole complicated marriage between her boss, who his name was David, and David's wife, Adele. And then she kind of just starts looking into their relationship because she's kind of inserted herself there. And it just gets crazy. A lot of stuff happens that you think, oh my gosh, how did you get yourself here? And I remember thinking all throughout reading this book, like, Louise, girlfriend, like what? What are you doing? Seriously? And I loved that I was like thinking of the character as like a best friend or somebody that I could say those things to, like, are you serious? Why did you get yourself in this fix? But yes, this was definitely the best book so far of 2019. So the next question is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2019. And I didn't have a lot of options for this. This year, so far in my reading, I've been reading more of like the first book in the series and not really any sequels that follow it up. I did read books from the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, and I actually read all of the books in the series of the Lunar Chronicles, except for the first one. The first one I had read previous to 2019, and then I've read Scarlet, Cress, and Winter in 2019, along with kind of the companion novels, which were Fairest and Stars Above. So I'm going to have to go with that series and those sequels that I've read. I really, really loved this series. It was absolutely amazing. Not to mention totally stunning books. So in this series, after Cinder, of course, which is the first one, I read Scarlet, which goes into more of Cinder's story, but also incorporates a new character, Scarlet, which is kind of a play on Little Red Riding Hood. And then after that, Cress, which again digs deeper into the stories of Cinder and Scarlet now, but also now of this new girl, Cress, who obviously was a retake on Rapunzel. Amazing. And then the last one in the series is Winter. And this one, of course, digs into deeper of all the other characters, but then also gives us Winter, who is kind of another take on Snow White. So totally amazing. I love things that kind of retell those classics that I enjoyed as a child, some of the, like good Disney classics that you remember seeing. So I absolutely loved that. I loved getting to kind of dig into that world again as an adult. So I've got to go with the last 3 books in the Lunar Chronicle series as my favorite sequel. I guess I can do that. Is that kind of cheating to give 3 books? I guess. I'm making up my own rules here, okay? So the next question was about a newly released book that I have not read yet in 2019. And for me, I haven't bought a whole lot of like brand new released books lately. I've been doing more like library book sales and things like that, picking up some just older books on my TBR just for the sake of saving money. But one of the books that I really, really am interested in reading that's recently come out, and it's on the Reese Witherspoon book club, is actually Where the Crawdads Sing. That sounds so fascinating. And it's set on it's set in like the North Carolina coast town, which is amazing because I also live in a North Carolina coast town, and it sounds like there's, a mystery happening and there's a murder, and it just sounds absolutely amazing. So that's one that I'm really hoping to pick up soon and get to. Oh, are you being cute? Yes. See, I'm just a cute little girl. Yes, I am. Hanging out with Mama. So the next question is about a book that I'm really anticipating that's going to be released soon. And for me, this book comes out in September of 2019, so it's going to be pretty soon in the next couple of months. And that is Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. I absolutely loved Carry On, and I have them right here too. I love everything I think Rainbow Rowell's ever written. She's amazing. But I absolutely loved Carry On. Look at this cover. It's gorgeous. But I loved this. I loved the characters. I loved how, we've got these 2 boys who seem just totally different and, just coming from different places, but then they realize that they have things in common. And then, of course, it ends up, being a beautiful romance and a great adventure too. So I loved this. I loved Fangirl, which is about the author of the Simon and Baz, which this is Simon and Baz. So about the Simon and Baz kind of world, and she's a fan fiction writer. I just loved both of those, so I'm really excited for Wayward Son. Cannot wait to get a copy of that. That's going to be one that I'm going to have to splurge and go ahead and buy a copy of. The next question is about a biggest disappointment that I had with a book. And I'm going to talk about one that I talked about recently in my June wrap up, and that was Year Zero by Jeff Long. And I think this one turned out to be a disappointment because I loved the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like Dan Brown for me. I'm just going to fly through it and love it. And then like about halfway through, it just kind of like sputters and stalls out for me. But it starts out amazing, and we've got stuff about, archaeology, and there's this Year Zero project going on where they're trying to get DNA and kind of replicate life from the past, which included Patient Zero, which they say on the back here, which was Jesus Christ. So I thought it was going to be really amazing and intense, but it just kind of sputtered out and kind of left me with a very unsatisfying ending. So this is my biggest disappointment. All right, so the next question is about the biggest surprise of 2019. And really I have 2 books that I want to talk about for this one because one of them I just really, I loved it so much that I kind of wanted to fit it in here anyhow I can because it was so good. And that was The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This was actually a present from my mother, so thanks, Mom. And this was just absolutely awesome. It was about the Alaskan like frontier and like living in the wild. And I just kind of thought, well, I don't know if that's going to really relate to me that much. But oh my gosh, I could make so many connections with this book and with the characters, and I just felt what they were feeling. And it was just absolutely amazing. And kind of just like you had this little bit of romance and you had this just awesome adventure that's happening in the Great Alone, and it was just fascinating. I loved this. So this was one of them. And then the other book that was really surprising to me, so I picked it up, I think, at like a library book sale, and you know, the title seemed really cool, and I was like, okay, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evie. And I was like, okay, this is cute, whatever. Well, I didn't realize it, but it is a romance book. And it's hard to see. It's a romance book, and I was like, oh, this isn't something I normally pick up. Just like a paperback romance book. But oh my gosh, it was actually really entertaining. So basically this millionaire dies, and he leaves in his will this just huge treasure hunt that he has set up. And there are 6 people that are going to play. One of them is kind of like his, not really his daughter, but kind of like, she was like a daughter to him, and his stepson, and then a couple of other contestants. And basically you get this incredible romance, but then you also get this like intense murder mystery plot where like people are trying to eliminate other people, and like it just gets crazy. And then the romance, and it was actually really good. It was really sweet. So I enjoyed this. I still think about this every now and again. In just like random moments, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember something like this happening in the book. But it was just absolutely awesome, considering it was a romance and I never read romances. So these were just 2 that were like really surprising, that I really enjoyed. I thought they were amazing. Hi, so the next question is, who is my favorite new author? And so I chose an author's debut novel that I read this year. I read this book in April of 2019, and it was Sometimes I Lie, and the author is Alice Feeney, and this was her debut novel. And this was, I think, an intense undertaking for a brand new author. The timeline, and it's like a psychological thriller, but the timeline goes between like a before and after point and kind of like a present point in the story. And so it was a lot. It was, you know, but everything in the story kind of came together perfectly. And so you've got this woman who ends up in a coma, and she's in the hospital, and everyone around her isn't aware, but she can actually hear everything they're saying. And so she's trying to put together in her mind, along with us, the audience, what has happened to her. And so she's kind of getting these flashes back into, you know, what actually happened. And so she's kind of like worried that either her husband was involved with how she ended up there, or her sister, or something. And it had a great kind of twist surprise to it. So I did really enjoy this. It was a satisfying read, and a lot happened in this book for it only being like 262 pages long. So this was a fun, quick read. If you like psychological thrillers, then I would definitely suggest picking this one up. Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Marley, what are you doing down there? Huh? Why are you creeping behind Mama's books? What? So the next question is about my favorite fictional crush, or my newest fictional crush for 2019. And I had to pick Invasive Procedures by Orson Scott Card and Aaron Johnston. I just really wanted a chance to talk about this book, to be honest. It was amazing. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know I love me some Orson Scott Card, but this was absolutely amazing. So it's set in kind of this, I guess it would be considered like an alternative reality, because we have these, or it might even be a bit futuristic. I think it's just kind of an alternate reality though. But you've got these people who are healers. And so we kind of start the novel seeing some of these healers kind of doing their work. And they come in these long robes and cloaks and things. And they are collecting some homeless people. And they're taking them to, you know, they believe to receive some help and medicine and food and a place to sleep and things like that. But really, we find out that there is a sinister plot happening. So we believe that these healers and what they're telling the city that they're trying to do is that they are curing incurable diseases like Parkinson's and sickle cell, and they're just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. Well, we really find out that what's happening is they are part of a religious cult that is working with George Galen. He's a scientist, he's a genetic therapist, and he is trying to make people kind of stronger, a bit more willing to do what he wants of them. And so the guy who I was saying was my biggest crush in this one is Frank Hartman, and he is I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, virologist, and basically he works on studying viruses and studying how they can be stopped. So like I was saying, Frank Hartman, he basically is stopping George Galen, the prophet of this religious cult, from basically taking over the world and kind of turning people into these zombified beings that he can control and stopping a huge outbreak of a virus. And so this was a really intense, amazing read. Frank Hartman is an awesome character, definitely kicks a lot of butt. I really enjoyed this. So the next question was about my favorite fictional couple, and for that one I'm picking a book that I haven't even discussed yet because I just finished reading it the other day. Yeah, I read this, I guess like 3 days ago I finished reading this, but it's a Fay Longchamp mystery, Floodgates, and I think I talked about this in the books that I was planning on reading for July, and so I did get to this one. It's by Mary Anna Evans, and I loved the couple Fay and Joe Wolf Mantooth, who's her fiance. So Faye and Joe just have this amazing like back and forth relationship where he understands what she needs, she understands what he needs. They work in the same space in archaeology work. They both have just strong interest in that area, and so they have a lot to talk about. And they just kind of respect one another in an amazing way that really came through in this book. So that's my favorite fictional couple for 2019 so far. So the next question is about a book that made me cry. If you've watched my wrap-up video for June, then you will have seen this one. This is a book that made me bawl at the end, which was Dewey, the Small Town Library Cat Who Touched the World. I talked about this book again in my wrap-up video. It was amazing, about a cat that was discovered in the library book little drop area, and he just kind of changed the whole town. This made me bawl at the end. It had a very touching ending, and I normally don't cry at books, but I mean, it's about a kitty cat. So, made me bawl. Loved it though. So the next one is about a book that made me happy, and I know that for most people it would probably be like a contemporary book, or you know, about like romance or something like that, but for me it was actually a book. I don't have it with me. I listened to it as an audiobook, but it was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Absolutely amazing story. So we've got Nobody Owens, they refer to him as Bod, in the book, and he grows up in a graveyard, and he can actually see and interact with the ghost and the spirits there. And he has to live there for some, you know, horrific circumstances that happen at the beginning of the book, where his family is murdered and he's attempted to be murdered as well. But throughout the story, with him growing up kind of in this fantastical world of ghosts and vampires and all kinds of stuff. He learns to kind of accept and love himself and love the people around him and develop friendships and relationships and things. And so it just made me really happy. It was an absolutely amazing book to read. I loved all of the, just little intricacies that they involved in there, like the dance of the macabre. Oh my gosh, I loved that. And I thought, how amazing. I would love to go and, of course, experience something like that, but I wouldn't remember it according to the book. So you'll have to read it to figure out about the dance of the macabre. But it made me really happy. I'm happy right now thinking about it. And I'm like, I really want to get the physical copy of that book. So I'll have to get that and then read it again just to experience all the feels all over again. So Marley wanted to say hi to the camera again. Say hi. So the next question is about the most beautiful book that I have read so far this year. And for me, that was The Librarian of Auschwitz. Based on the true story of an Auschwitz prisoner, Dita Cross, by Antonio Iterbray, translated by Lilith Thwaites. I'm not sure if I'm saying any of those correct, but this was just absolutely stunning. I love the cartoon books and kind of just setting that's very sinister, but then you see a character who is the, undoubtedly the girl in the book who is the librarian, standing atop the books, Star of David behind her, and just being able to look out over all of this tragedy to the sky beyond. So it was just absolutely gorgeous, and it continues around to the back. And then if we remove the dust jacket, it just gets prettier still. We've got just kind of books. And this is just kind of imprinted into the front of this just beautiful dark blue book. We've, of course, got our spine with a gorgeous silver on it. And inside, we have got Auschwitz-Birkenau extermination camp in Poland, 25th of August, 1944. And they kind of show just a map of what it looked like there. And then the same thing on the back page, kind of just the other part of the map. So just stunning, absolutely beautiful. This book was an amazing read as well. So like it says, it is about a true story, and it was a girl who was kind of tasked very young to be the librarian. And so she basically would hide the books when their camp was going to be raided and checked out, and had all their belongings kind of scattered around the wind and gone through to make sure they didn't have any contraband, which books would have been contraband. But she kind of just encouraged people to read and to kind of hold on to the hope and the faith that books bring. So this was a beautiful book. It was gorgeous on the outside and the inside, of course. It was just absolutely amazing. Beautiful story of hope and faith and just the human will and desire to continue to look beyond and to have hope even in hopeless situations. So this was absolutely gorgeous. I loved this. So the last question is about books that I need to read for the remainder of 2019. And basically all of the books that are in my closet over there, which are all books that just need to be read. They're all on my TBR list. So anyway, I picked out a few that I'm just really excited about that I haven't already talked about in my July TBR. And so one of those is Orson Scott Card's Sarah, which it says Women of Genesis. So it's basically like the story of Sarah, and I just think it's going to be absolutely amazing to hear a biblical story with Orson Scott Card's amazing writing, because y'all know that I love him by now. So yeah, and reading they give like a little excerpt of dialogue in here. It just sounds like it's going to be really relatable, which the Bible isn't always super relatable. Some of the stories that happened, you know, in Genesis, sometimes we're like, what? Oh my gosh, that's so different from today. But I think this is going to make it really relatable. So I'm excited about this one. Another one is Jojo Moyes 1+1. I've just heard good things about it. I think it's just supposed to be a great contemporary. We've got things about a single mother, a chaotic family, and then there's like this tech millionaire who like comes to stay with them, I guess, and kind of just turns their world inside out. So I'm excited about this one. It sounds like a lot of fun. And then another one that I've been looking forward to getting to for a while is The Bookman's Wake. And it's a mystery with Cliff Janeway. The reason I picked it up was, if you see behind this kind of bookmark here, you can see the end of Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven. There's like a blood drip happening there. So it just looks absolutely crazy. It says that there is a rare bookman, Cliff Janeway, and it ends with a very special book, a 1969 edition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And so it's like, this book would be a fortune for anybody who gets their hands on it. And ex-Denver cop Janeway is happily at work selling rare and used books. And then a police colleague arrives with an offer. And I think Bailey, it just kind of goes from there, which super rare books sounds so exciting to me, because they can be really like valuable. I mean, like worth a lot of money, and valuable just for the people that own them. I mean, owning a rare edition of an Edgar Allan Poe book sounds amazing. So those are just a few of the books that I'm excited to get to this year. I think so far I've been doing pretty good in 2019. Not freaking out too much. I think that I'm on target to get to my 100 books by the end of the year. At least I hope so. So just to give you some statistics of the books that I've read for the first half of 2019, I have so far read 51 books. So yeah, I feel like I'm on course to get to my 100 books. 28 of those books I owned personal copies of. 14 of those books were audiobooks. 9 of the books were library books. So very exciting. I feel like I've done a good job with getting through, like half of my reading goal so far. So I'm really excited about that. All right, bookworms, thank you for stopping by and hanging out and checking out my mid-year book freakout tag. Please keep coming back to my channel to see what other content I'm making. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, bookworms. Marley says bye, bookworms.